Today we are beginning a new Masechta Bava Metzia, which all yeshiva they study in the younger years. A lot of mafarshim on it, and I remember there's a beautiful explanation from the Rebbe in the first Mishnah, but I'll tell you to you tomorrow night. But I got to remind myself what the Rebbe said. See if I can actually find it written somewhere. Okay. So Mishnah. So we finished Bava Kama, which talked about damages and about damages from your possessions and yourself, including stealing and robbing and so on. And now we're going to discuss other either mitzias or people have disputes. How do we resolve those disputes? Shnayim oichzim betalis. Very good. Actually, Taisus says, what's the flow, the segue between this Masechta and the previous Masechta? Because the last Mishnah we learned there about was if an employee works for an employer and he has a small little hammer and he chisels away, who gets to keep those chips? So it's a question of dividing. How do you divide? So we're continuing about dividing. We have a dispute. Shnaim oichzin betalis. Later on in the Gemara of Zayin, we talked about the Shnaim adukin b'shtar. Adukin is holding on much more than oichzin. So by a talus, we're going to learn later, if one person's holding on a certain amount of the talus, another person holding on less, first, whatever you're holding, mashatachas yoda is yours. And then we discuss what happens to the balance. So here we're talking about oichzin, they're merely holding on the ends of the talus. Adukin means the mamash holding on the actual item. And by a star, it doesn't matter how much of the star you're holding, because the star does not have any inherent value. It's only representative of value. Now what happened was each one claims that they found it, therefore belongs to them. The Rosh already asks, Talus has some money. Why would either one keep it? They found it, they should find out who the owner is. And the Rosh says it's a city the majority of people are goyim. And that before we already discussed, because even the majority of people are goyim, if there's a simon there, according to Rabbanan, maybe you still have to declare it and see whether there's a Jewish owner, if there's a Jewish minority there. The bottom line is the two people found talus, each one claims the whole thing is theirs. Then the Mishnah says, each one says the whole thing is mine. It's redundant. If you found it, obviously the whole thing is yours. The Gemara will discuss that. Each one swears they don't have less than half, which is odd. Shouldn't each one swear to back up their claim? But the problem was, if we make each person swear to back up their claim, one of them is going to be swearing false, and we're putting them in a situation where they have to swear false. So what? One of them is a liar. Maybe he'll back away. The problem is that each one is actually convinced that they're saying the truth. Each one thinks that they picked it up first. So there's a shvuah is not a deterrent. All the shvuah is supports what they believe. So we cannot have a situation that looks like a farce, that we're going to have a bezin, two people swearing which contradict each other. So therefore, this way say, each one says, but we don't want the shvuah to contradict their claim. So we say, I have at least a half. The yachleiku, then they divide it. That's case number one. Case number two. One guy says the whole thing is mine. In other words, I found it first. Another guy says, no, we both found it together. So half is mine, half is yours. So what do we do here? So half Amaida belongs to you. So there's no dispute here. So that half definitely belongs to person A. We're disputing the other half, so we divide that in half as well. So one gets 3/4 and one gets a quarter. All the Rishonim, I'll get in a second. Same idea. We swear I don't have less than 3/4. And another one says half. Again, we don't want the shvuahs to contradict each other. The obvious question is, if I say only half is mine, so what am I really saying? I'm conceding that the other half is yours. So why are we even discussing it?
I'm making no claim on it.
Yeah, so why are you swearing 3/4 is yours? There's no dispute on half of that. All you should be just saying is that this other half, you're saying at least half of that is mine, which is a quarter, and I say I say minimum of a quarter. Why you have to swear 3/4? So the Gemara already said, because we don't want this guy to think in his mind he could be a very cunning individual, and when he swears that a quarter is mine, what he's really thinking about is a quarter that you gave me. Even if he says I'm swearing on Das Bezin, but people, can delude themselves in thinking they're not so dishonest. I didn't really swear false. I was thinking about the half that you agreed is mine. So we don't want that to be such a situation, position. So you have to spell it out. 3/4 is mine, and then it'll be the turn. The question that all the Rishonim ask: And there's, I think, about 11 answers that I remember. All the time ask, doesn't he have a migui? The one who says half should get the entire half without even having to swear. Because if you could have said the whole thing is mine, ended up with half. Now he's saying half is his. He's probably telling the truth. So why he says so migui? So Taisus here answers migui. So it's called, it's a migui. You want me to take more than I'm entitled to. I'm entitled to half of that half, a quarter, and you want me via the migui to get an extra quarter. That's called a migui lahaitzi. Migui is not strong enough to take away from somebody else.
So the guy doesn't have it any more than you have it. You're both holding on to it.
Each one is considered muhzik. Each one is considered muhzik. Remember, half we're not discussing. The dispute is only on the remaining half. Each one's considered muhzik. But you're right. Many of the Shayin do not answer what Taisa says, and because they don't consider this the typical migul haitzi. Migul haitzi is, you have the money and I'm trying to do through Miga. I want to take money away from you. Here, that in itself is a question whether the b'chlal belongs to you. So it's not lahaitzi; it's migul hachzik in a way.
Migul is a logic that we can assume, we can project.
Why migul haitzi doesn't work? If it doesn't work, we will learn in Daf Lamed. Aleph Machlekes Rabbah Rabbi Yosef will talk about migul haitzi. But why the other Shayin don't ask like Taisa is because they consider it like a migul hachzik. Because I'm not really taking away from you because it's a Metzia. I'm just supporting my claim. So it's different. Others say as follows. Others say we don't say migui from moment to moment. I'm arguing about this half, and you want me to say migui. I could have talked about another half. That's two different things. It's like two separate cases here, and therefore you can't use the migui to jump from one case to another. Others say you don't say migui unless taina shkulim. The two, he could have said that. Usually, if I was a liar, I could have said a better taina or at least an equal taina. Here it's not equal. Why? Because maybe I don't have the chutzpah to look at you and say that I found it first. When you know how the guy found it, so you don't have the chutzpah to look at him and say that. So that's not called taina shkulim. It's much easier for me to say we found it together. The chutzpah is not so great. Not so not so brazen here, saying that you found it, but I found it with you. So it's not taina shkulim. That's another answer, and there are many other answers. Okay, let's continue. Page has another question. And again, all those trying to talk about this. Isn't this the case of Suffolk and Vade? That guy Vade has half the talus. The question is about the other half. I maybe have nothing in the talus because I'm conceding half is definitely yours and half we're discussing. So when you have a Suffolk and a Vade, we have a story there about the Reuben and Shimon, the Yershim, and then Reuben dies, leaves behind the son, and the question is, if Reuben is entitled to anything or not. So we say that the Shimon is definitely a Vade, and the question of the house collapse, who died first, and the son of Reuben is a suffix. So Shimon takes the whole thing. So Taisus says, and all the Shem say that over here, it's like two separate cases. Because I said that half of the talus is yours, I agree. It's off the table. It's not part of the discussion. So there's no vada here. The vada that the other guy gets the other half of talus is totally unrelated to this half of talus that we're discussing right now. Taking about further, that's case number 2. Case number 3. Two people were riding an animal. One guy was leading the animals. The animals' minds. They show the same thing as before. In fact, what's the point of this case? Of course, from an animal versus a talus. And we'll talk about in the test the reichiv and manig, the idea that this is a form of a kinyan, and manig is a form of a kinyan. Each one swears, each one swears at least a minimum as half of his, and that's it. Bisman shehem maiden, but if the chayda that made it to each other that we picked it together, or yeshlan aidin that's one to pick together, the chaykim below shur. Now it's so obvious the Gemara will discuss what's the chiddush, and this comes the whole sugya of magbiyat sil chaveda, which we'll see. If you pick up something for someone else, if the other person is kaina, because maybe you're harming the whole world, they took away their opportunity from obtaining this talus. That's the Gemara. First question: why do you have to say the mission is repetitive? I found it. Then each one says the whole thing is mine. Isn't my claim when I say I found it tantamount to saying that the whole thing is mine? What do I have to spell out for and the mission makes like a separate case altogether? At least the chada. Let's look at one case. You're right. Read the mission as if it's one case. It's spelling it out. Ani mitzvah v'kula shali. Ani mitzvah v'kula shali. That's what the mission means. Chadik tani. Zeh ani mitzvah v'kula shali. V'zeh ani mitzvah. the kulishli. Says the Gemara, but the wording in the Mishnah, then the Mishnah makes it sound like two separate cases. One guy says mitzvah, one guy says mitzvah, and then it says ze'ema kulishli, ze'ema kulishli. The way you should have it, it should have been read together. Ze'ema ani mitzvah vek kulishli, and ze'ema ani mitzvah vek kulishli. The least ani mitzvah ani daini kulishli isn't iton ani mitzvah. I mean, first of all, ask the question: why even spell it out? Isn't it obvious? Even one learns one case, it's still redundant. There's about Iton, they would have said, I mean, I thought, my mitzvah, when he claims, I found it, he meant, I saw it. He thinks that because since it's Hefker, in other words, the main purpose of a kinyan is to take it out of someone else's reshus. And my role in the kinyan is just the difference. Whose is it now? So it's mine. But who is the primary I guess a person who's actively making the kinyan is the vendor, but here there's no vendor. It's hefker, it belongs to no one. It's ownerless. So therefore, the slightest kinyan is sufficient to show my bilus. If I say I saw it, maybe it's good enough. Maybe it's good enough. That's why he spelled out kulashali. That's more than just I saw it. I did something about it to make it mine. That's why the Mishnah emphasizes kulashali. Zebediya like kani. That is not kaina. So the Gemara. How could you say my mitzvah city? So how can you even think when he said I found it? He meant I saw it. Well, Amar Rabbanoi said it says the mashmam. It says that a goy that you actually had it in Baba Kama, a goy that you don't have to give back the aved of a goy. But it says l'chol aved asachich. So then we ask, maybe it means only because you didn't pick it up. But once you picked it up, maybe you have to get back to the guy. So we say no, because it says on Matzasa, and Matzasa the asli other masha. So even though you picked it up, only l'chol aved asachich, only to your brothers, not to a guy. So we see the word Matzasa means picking up. So how can you say if the Mishnah would have said Ani Mitzvah? I would have thought that his claim was I saw it, when the word Mitzvah based on that pasuk is that I actually picked it up. So when I ask the question, the asli other mashma means that you actually physically picked it up. So again, the question goes back: why does the Mishnah have to spell out what would we have thought otherwise? Says you want to know what are you comparing mitzvah the way people speak and mitzvah you found in the Torah? In the Torah, everything's technical. Mitzvah means that I picked it up. But when people speak, I found it first. What do they? A lot of times they saw it and they say I found it, even though all they did was they saw it. They haven't yet picked it up. So, of me, however, our Tana, least our Tana is repeating a conversation that people had. And when people say, I found it, actually they just saw it. So they see it, I found it. But I forgot the loy also even though he didn't pick it up, he thinks, but he thinks that because he found it, he is kind of. Tell you that don't think that because it's hefker is enough. We had the Gemara that habota behefker is and we'll have it again later. Habota behefker maybe is kaina. So here we're saying that it doesn't work by hefker by metzia, and yet we'll have it later on again as well. Habota behefker is kaina. So Taisa here says that habota behefker, but he did some ma'aser kolu. But perhaps habota is different than riya. Habota means to stare, focus. So maybe riya is a glance. So it is a glance. So a glance, hefker is not a kinyan. But habota, when you're standing there and you're staring at it and you're like minding it, even though you didn't physically pick it up, maybe it is kinyan. And in fact, that's why people think that riya is kinyan. Otherwise, why would you think he is kind? Just because if it's not kind, there's no precedent. Why would you think because I see something different, mine? What's my relationship? But once we establish that habata behefka is kind, and habata taka means you're focusing, you're thinking what you do with them, you're working on it in your mind at least, and it's obvious that there's a relationship between you and that item because you're standing there and you're looking at it or whatever. So we would have then taken the next step. Say, okay, so these are the same thing. So Kamashlan, that's not. That's why we would think so. But Taisha learns no habata hefka doesn't mean just looking. It means you do a ma'aser code.
You have to do something that someone else can identify to see that you're actually doing something.
Where does it say that Kenyan?
From this end, you're looking for that end. How do you know who saw it and thought about using it first?
Yeah, but where does that Kenyan is for someone else? Kenyan is the icons.
I'm taking away from that. That's what it said by everybody. So now you're making it.
So okay, so true. So that's where we said that hefker might be considered chav lachrin or not. We'll see later by Metzia if you're harming. In other words, I said last time, the question of hefker is it belongs to everybody, it belongs to nobody. So if it belongs to everybody, then when I'm taking it away, I'm actually harming the whole world because they already have a connection to it, and I cut them off. But if it belongs to nobody, I harm nobody. But that's too far. That's not harming. Potential. That's not called harming. Like we say, Menias Hadevach is not a hefsek because it's potential is not actual. Okay, so go back to the question: why does the Mishnah say both? See, and go to your murder. Okay, so that's what the first thing is to be shoyl to negate the idea that people might think that just because they saw it becomes theirs. The listener, so why doesn't it say kula shali? Well, if the Mishnah just would have said kula shali, each one said the thing is mine, then obviously he found it first, picked it up first. So because we say kula shali is much more than just seeing it, right? But to see it, because people think I found it means I saw it. But kula shali is much more than that. It means that I took it. So that's it. Why do you need the mitzvah here? Was it no? Itan kula shali. I mean, I would have thought ba'alma. I would have thought you're right. But whenever we find the word expression anywhere in Shas, if we find anywhere the word mitzvah or matzah, but we would think that the word mitzvah means riyah, and that's why the Mishnah uses kula shali. Tell you it's much more than just seeing it. I picked it up, so we can make an error not here but in other places. If we have to establish, we're learning Bava Metzia to establish, and we learn all about Metzias to establish what is the definition of a Metzia. What's the definition of your engagement with this object? It's not sufficient just to see it, but you actually have to lift it. The Mishnah says from the fact that the Mishnah repeats it, we know that he like kanin. So that's why we have mitzvah and we have kulashul. Says the Gemara, but so what do you tell me? But it's all one thing. Ani mitzvah kulashul. But now the question goes back. You read the Mishnah, it seems from the Mishnah clear. There's two separate cases. It says my name to each. One guy says I found it. The other guy says I found it. Then it says one guy says the whole thing is mine, the other says the whole thing is mine. So it's not one story, it's two stories. What are the two stories here? It says clearly, again. So what's going on here? Amar Papa. Barashi. And Papa said, others say Barashi. Others say Kadi, others say that what? That Kadi said. We have two opinions of Kadi named Banamoira. Or if Kadi is actually means said by general. Now what? Reisha b'metzia v'seiv mekemechem. You have two separate stories there. One story is where two people claim they found it. Another story is two people claim I bought it. We're seeing more later talking about a case where they both gave money. Part of their money gave it to the vendor, but one gave it voluntarily, the other gave it balkarcha against the vendor's wishes. Yeah. So Rashi says, "Big machlek to show you." But Rashi says here on the bottom of the page, if what happens, the reason why in our Mishnah says chleiku is because they're both holding on to it. If they're not, we'll have a case in Bava Basra. There was a boat standing there in the marina, and each one says, "Zeh shel avoisai, zeh shel avoisai." Each one says, "It's mine. I inherited it from my father." What do we do there? We say, "Call the alam gavar." Whoever is stronger will win. Why over here we say Yachleiku and over there we say Kol Down Gover? Say over there Yachleiku or say over here Kol Down Gover. We don't know who's telling the truth. So all the Rishonim say, because over here you're holding on to it. And over there, there's nobody holding on to it. So if Bezin intervenes, they might pass totally wrong. There's no, could be don't belong to either of them. Could be the third party. So therefore we say Kol Down Gover. Kol Down Gover itself is a big machlek Rishonim. What kind of psak is that? We walk away or we believe that it'll sort itself out because whoever it actually belongs to will put it more persistent. How do we know which one it is? So one is more persistent. Even the weaker person is never going to give up. It will drive him with sugar till he gets back what belongs to him. So it's a psak or Kol Down Govers, we fold our arms if we don't know what to do. So we just walk away. You guys fight it out. Leave us out of it. But what about a case where one guy says, Ani araktia? They're both holding on to a talus. So they're both oichzin. So it's not like a hu arba. But this guy says, I wove this talus. And the guy said, I wove this talus. What do you do here? One of them is definitely a liar. What do you do here? So Rashi said in this case here, because you can't make them swear because one of them is definitely a liar. So therefore you say Yeh Menachas Yo. Okay, let's continue.
When you want to do someone,
Oh no, by buying somebody is, we'll see in a minute. Utzricha. Right now we'll see in a minute. Utzricha, why do you need two cases? Example by Metzia, example by buying and selling. We need both. The Itana Metzia, if you would learn only the case. Now remember, there's a big machlekes Rashi and Taisus Avov, and it's mentioned many times between the lines, where Rashi holds that a person who is suspected migud chasha minus chasha shvasa. If you think this person is a ganef, there's no point in making him swear because he'll swear false as well. And Taisus says no. The halacha is like by the migud chasha minus loy chasha shvasa. If a person is a ganef, doesn't matter. We can still trust him with a shvur that we're going to have a problem according to Taisus. A shvur. You know the problem is if the guy thinks he's telling the truth. If the guy thinks he's a ganef, a shvur will help according to Taisus. But if a guy thinks he's telling the truth, he's convinced that he's telling the truth, what's the point of swearing? He'll swear to it as well. That's Taisus Shitta. Exactly the opposite of Rashi.
Even though we say Allah except
We'll see later. We'll see later about this about Migdal Chashmon Adav. But that's Taisus gang. We'll have enough Gimel as well. So that's Taisus gang. Taisus gang is so just because the guy's a ganef doesn't mean he'll swear false. So we need the shua as a deterrent. According to Rashi, even the guy's a ganef. Even if the guy's a ganef, we don't trust him with the shua. It's only when do we trust the shua? The guy's not really a ganef, but he convinced himself it's not so bad what I'm doing. I'm not really stealing. I'm not this. Then a shua will put him in his place. Because swearing false, he's not going to. But if he's mamash a ganef, no point in making him swear. Okay, there's two different ways, two different schools of thought. So let's do the Gemara. According to Rashi, the Tana Metzia, I mean, I would have thought Metzia who the Rama Shula. You know why by Metzia we make him swear? Mishum the Moidi. He convinced himself that he's not doing the wrong thing. Va'amar, listen, what's the big deal? Am I a ganef? It's not really his. He found it in the street. It was a good luck. So why shouldn't I share in his fortune? Let me go and grab a hold of it and we'll split it equally. So he convinced himself that's not called stealing. Oh, but a shvua, he's not going to swear that I found it first. It's a lie. He's not going to swear false. By he cannot convince himself he's not really stealing. Why? Because he's hurting the other person. What do you mean hurting the other person? They'll get their money back. They gave him, they'll get it back. He's hurting because the other guy needs this particular item. And because of you, the other guy now has to schlep around and so on. That's a chasar, his time, the effort. You can't convince yourself that I'm not a ganef. Even though you paid money for it, but the other guy paid money first and he sought after this particular item, you're hurting him. In the case of him, you're not hurting anybody. It's your good luck. So instead of you finding $100 towels, you only get $50 worth of towels. You still got a windfall over there. What do you want? You're such a chazah, you can't split with me. That's how you convince yourself. You think you're not doing anything wrong. But by Mekha, there's no way you could convince yourself you're not doing anything wrong. The fact is, it's not necessarily quantified in money, but the guy put time and effort to buy this thing. He came all the way here to buy it, and I'm now taking it away from him. So you can't. So no, you are a ganef. And because you're a ganef, what's the point of making him swear, according to Rashi? What's the point of making him swear? Because he'll swear false. Because yeah. So therefore, we would have thought you don't make him swear. We're looking more now according to Rashi. If we would have told us the case of the convinced us, I'm not really a ganef, he'll get his money back. He has the money. The other store is selling something similar. So you convince yourself, how did I steal? Time is not money. I'm not stealing any money from him. So that's not really called, it's not a tangible chsaron, and therefore he convinces himself he's not doing anything wrong. Sure, there'll be a deterrent. Like, what do you tell me? Go find it somewhere else. So you know that you're doing the wrong thing. And yet I'm standing here in court and I'm ready to say that it's mine. Surely he'll swear false. What's the point of making sure? Therefore you need it. So that's how Rashi learns the Gemara. So Taitel is exactly the opposite. By Metzia, the reason why I'm making sure is because I convince myself that that I know it's his. But I think, what's so bad? He found it. But why am I standing here and saying I bought it? Because I can believe that it's mine. Because I believe it's mine, what's the point of making him swear? He'll swear to what he says. He really thinks that the Meicher agreed to me. I paid him and he agreed to sell it. No, it is exactly the opposite. The reason why you don't make it, we would have thought you don't make it in other places, is not because he's definitely stealing. Okay, he's because it's a bad thing. It must be, and people are generally not bad people. It must be that he convinced himself that that's the story, that he actually acceded to my money, and therefore the shvuah will not act as a deterrent because he's convinced that he did the right thing. Not he's convinced I know it's the wrong thing, but it's not so bad. He's convinced that he did the right thing because it is a wrong thing to do. So why is he standing and saying the story? Because he's convinced he's doing the right thing. Exactly the opposite of Rashi. Now the one asks a question. Sorry? The two people came and gave money, as Gemara will say in a minute. And therefore, but the question is, who did he agree to? Could agree to both. So he's convinced, he's a friend of mine, surely he gave it to me. Or whatever, in his mind, he convinced himself that he's the recipient.
I want to buy.
None of that. It used to be 2 o'clock in the morning, they would line up. I said, you know what they should have? No. But my they have this thing called Boxing Day sales, which is unbelievable. The police had to stop it. So they would take one fridge that, let's say $1,000, $100, one fridge, and one washing machine, $100. A whole night there was a line of people there waiting because there's a few real Metzias like you will never find anywhere else. And then 10 people, you should one guy hold the handle of the fridge, one guy's holding the freezer. 90% exactly. And the day before they go to scan the store to see which thing will be. Anyway, it was fascinating. Something more like this. Okay, I don't understand. Let's ask the vendor who we agreed to. What's the big deal? The lech zezuzim man nokat. By Mekach and Memche, you're having a dispute who he sold to. Let's just ask the vendor. The easiest answer would have been the vendor's not around. But the vendor is around. Let's ask the vendor who did you agree to sell to? And right now we think that we're going to learn. We had this whole Gemara condition of Ayans, and we said over there that the vendor is believed like two Adam because he has a migli. He can decide who to give it to. So Gemara said, I'm not reading what Gemara condition. When is it talking about? When the vendor has it still in his hand, so he has a migli. He can give it to person A. He can give it to person B. So therefore, he's believed like two Adam. But once he sold it, maybe he doesn't remember. So therefore, what's going on? So what's gone on over here? So we say over there. So the Gemara explains why isn't he believed anymore after he sold it? Because both of them gave him money. So Kozman, it's in his hand. He has to decide who to give it to. He's believed because he can give it to anyone. Once he gave it over and he got money from both of them, we say we don't believe him anymore. So what's Gemara's question over here? So Rashi says the Gemara's question here is, right now we think only one person gave him. We don't know yet that both of them gave them money. And if one person gave the money, even after he gave the object to them, he should still be believed. Why shouldn't he remember who he took the money from and who he gave it to? That's how Rashi learns the Gemara. Rabbeinu Tam and Ram Rutenberg, they learned the Gemara, that the Gemara is talking about when the Gemara there says, no, we already knew they gave him two people. But the Gemara thinks when we say that he's not believed, that once he gave that believed, he's not believed like two Eidim, but he's believed like an Eid Echad. So the vendor is saying that I sold it to Reuven. So what's Mark's question? So Reuven shouldn't have to swear. Only Shimon. In fact, Shimon now has to swear Mahat Torah because not only at the Kanah Chachamim, because the Eid Echad is saying that it belongs to Reuven. Now this is a very big chiddush, big machlekes. So what's Rabbeinu, and the Rashi didn't want to learn like Rabbeinu Tam, because what's Rabbeinu Tam and Ram Rutenberg saying that all we know is from the Torah that an Eid Echad is mechayev b'shur. Rabbeinu Tam is mechadish that an Eid Echad patters you, exempts you from b'shur. If I had to swear, a case of Moedah b'miktzah, let's say I say, oh, you $50, you claim 100, I say 50. The Torah says I have to swear the balance 50. I have an Eid Echad that all I borrowed was 50. Do I still have to swear? Rabbeinu Tam, Rabbeinu says, no, you don't. And that's what the Gemara is asking you. Let him at least act like that. So the question is not why he doesn't only get half. Why swear? Rashi holds that an Eid Echad only has the ability to act and mechayev b'shur, not to eliminate a shur. Now, what's the machlekes there? Machlekes there is as follows. An Eid Echad makes you swear. If you don't swear, what happens? You have to pay the money. So there's two ways of understanding it. Is the pshat that the Eid Echad, that really when an Eid Echad comes along, you have to pay money. You have to pay money. But if you swear, the swear takes away that chiyuv. The swearing is a form of payment. I can either pay you the $100 that the Eid Echad make me pay, or I can swear, and that's tantamount to me paying you $100. No. I'm talking about an Eid Echad says that you owe $100. Reuben says, Shimon, you owe me $100. Shimon denies, I owe you anything. Comes along, Eid Echad says, yes, you owe $100. So now, if Shimon pays, he pays. Or sorry, if Shimon swears that's not true, then he's potter. Otherwise, he pays. So what's pshat? According to one way of learning is that the Eid Echad really makes you pay the $100. But the Torah says, if it's only Eid Echad, you have two ways of paying: either pay cash or swear. That's one way of learning. The other way of learning is that an Eid Echad can only be Mechayiv Ashur. The Torah then says, if you don't swear, then we are going to impose upon you a Chiv or since there's a claim and you're not refuting it, so therefore you're paying money, but not because the Eid Echad makes you pay money. Eid Echad doesn't have the power, capacity to make you pay money.
It's against the circumstance where the Beis Din demands you to pay the money.
Yeah, so
if the Eid Echad would be there, the Beis Din would say, that's it, it's a suffix,
So the question is, if the Eid Echad has the capacity to remove a shvua, to remove a shvua, you have to swear, and that in order to get it. The Eid Echad has the capacity to remove a shvua if the shvua is considered like money or not money. And just getting a little bit. Let's move on. The one continues. You know what we're talking about here? Let's see the knocker to buy you. Took money from both of them. One gave him voluntarily, one he forced. V'lo yadana. Big machlek is what the word should be here. According to Rashi, lo yadana means we, the peasant, don't know. We don't care what the vendor says. He's not believed. If he took money from both, he's not believed even as an Eid Echad. Because even if he claims, I don't remember, I gave it to Reuven, we don't believe him because you're no longer considered an Eid Echad. You're no longer considered anything because Eid Echad is not patzi for sure. So lo yadina, we the peasant don't know. According to Taisus, it's v'lo yada. Had he said, I remember clearly I gave it to Reuven, then he'll be at least serving as an Eid Echad. But now it's a v'lo yada, he doesn't remember. Now, now let's work out who's the author of our Mishnah. We're going to go through the next half a plot. Our Mishnah is not conform with bananas. I remember Meir Tzvil Mashpiyah for bringing the whole night. Lema Maslisa like your bananas. You really care for his bananas, not bananas. Does it bother you, Bechlau? And yet the Gemara is so particular. Every word of Torah is emes. You need to know who said it, who's the author. The author cannot be banana. What's the story of bananas? He bananas, because if it's bananas, he says, Ketzad, talks about here, a guy goes to the balabas and he says to the balabas, I want you to give to my children a certain amount of wheat and I'll reimburse you for it. Or I want you to give my workers, they work for me, I owe them $100, I want you to give them $100 worth of food at the end of the week. And then at the end of the week, the employee said to my boss, where's that $100? And Baba said, I gave it to the storekeeper. And the storekeeper said, and they said, no, we never got it from the storekeeper. The storekeeper, but I gave it. You told me to give them $100 worth of, I gave it to them. So what do we do? So the storekeeper said, I gave it, and the employee or the children say, we never received it. So the din is, they both swear and each one collects whatever they're owed. Comes on Banana says, how can you have a farce? Ketzad elu ve'elu boyin le'shu shav. One of them is definitely swearing false. How can we create a situation that in a bezin you're gonna mandate they both swear and one of them definitely is lying? You can't have that. So the Chayei Mishnah, they're both swearing that each one swears that I found it. One of them is definitely lying. So the Gemara, no, it's impossible that they're both saying the truth. One of them is lying. Either the Chenevini did give them or he didn't give them. Here, Lavdafka, they're lying. Even though they both claim differently, but it could be in reality, they both pick the same thing. Exactly. Just each one thinks I did a second before you did. So because it's possible to be true, even now, let's make them swear. Lema Maslisin.
True that one found it before the other, or it's that they really think that that's what happened.
No, they really think that they found it. They think they found it first. But we say it's possible that they're actually saying the truth because it's possible to pick them together. And the truth is, Nachmer, why do more say that? Is look at the lashon of the shvua. They're not the shvua itself is not clashing. Each one is saying chatzah, at least a half. So it's possible that. Anyhow, Leima Maslis like your sumchas. Remember we had sumchas in the Pedig and Baba Kama, where a shoy shnagar chesapor menim so over the right the shoy. The ox killed the cow, and we found a miscarriage there. The question is, did the show do it, or did it happen already? It was a miscarriage before, right? And someone says, "Mama lusavik cholkin," but he says cholkin below shvur. You don't swear. Our mission is not conform with the sukkah. Our mission said they both have to swear. There, he just says yachleiku. Now remember the Gemara Rabbana say that Rabbana say the Nizik claims he wants to get paid reimbursed for the fetus, the baby calf. The Nizik has so our Mishnah cannot conform the Chum either. Right? Each one should bring a raya before we divide it. Bring a raya, that's yours. So what are you talking about? Hi, Mike. Over there, there's an owner, there's a nizik, right? And there's a mazik, and you want to take from the mazik money. He has a chazkas mum, and the money's by him. You want to take more money from him. So who is the muhzik over here? They're both not holding on. One guy, the mazik has the money in his bank account. The nizik's claiming from the mazik more money to cover my baby calf. So you're a mitzi and he's a machzik. So we say over here they're equal. The tavayu topsy says they're both holding on to it. Who's the mitzi and who's the machzik? These powder b'shur. These according to Chachamim. In this case, they divide the shur. The pram is sumchis. Eliyam is sumchis. Hashta now. The light topsy tonight. They're not there. Neither of them holding on to it. Yet cholkim below shua, we say, look, you divided. We don't know what happened there, so we divided. The tavai topsy. They're both holding on to it. The talos like koskin. Surely we should divide it. Says Gemara, I feel tamer sumchas. Sumchas would agree with our Mishnah that in this case you swear. Why? Ki Omar sumchas. When does sumchas say over there you don't swear? Kashem Mashem. What are you going to swear? No one knows what happened. You weren't there. Yeah, you don't know exactly, and nobody knows what happened there. Have a body here. Each one's claiming definitely this is my story. Then maybe sumchas will agree. Swear, lie. Omar didn't say. Says the Gemara, we had there Baba Kama according to Rabba Rabhuna, the Rabba the son of Rabhuna, who says Omar sumchas afilu body. Rabba Rabhuna says that some hold that even a body chokin below shvur. That why that you don't have to swear. Michael mentions according to that in our Mishnah you shouldn't swear. Afilu tema sumchas. Ki Omar sumchas heicha the ikadrora de the mina, where there's a loss of money. Abel heicha the lekadrora de mina, where there's no loss of money. Lie. Over there, there's a draw in the minor. There's a loss of money. If we're going to paskin that the mazik has to pay to nizik, but maybe we're wrong, so we're taking money away. Maybe the animal miscarried before this mishap. So we were taking money. We might paskin wrong and make and cause someone to have a loss. So therefore, you say, you know what? Divide it without making a sure. Oh, but in our case over here, there's no real loss. It's a mitzvah. There's no real loss. Traces has another pshat dror the money. Traces learned dror the money means if nobody would have said anything, would there be a suffix? If two people are holding on a talus and they wouldn't open their mouths, what would we say? Probably belongs to both. Their claims created the suffix, so therefore we have to deal with it and make a sure. Over there, we see a shoyer nagachapara and we see a baby calf there. We ask the question straight away. So what happened there? You see an accident on the road, you already ask, whose fault is it? What happened here? Even if they wouldn't have said anything, it's be'etzim, there is a suffix here. So if there's be'etzim a suffix, it's cholkim below shur. Over here, you created the suffix with your tinus, so with the shur. That's how Tosfos. Tell you mother, over there where there's a possible loss to one. Maybe we can say kulamar. We can say either the mazik or nizik, and yet you don't swear. Over here, there's no loss of money. It's possible that Taka belongs to both of them. It's like Koshkin, it's bad, so it should be Yachleiku, which is Yachleik without a shua. Because here, it's much more lends itself to a split than over there. Over there, but either he killed the baby calf or he didn't kill the baby calf, right? So one of them is definitely. And yet we say divide. We're hurting. When we say divide, definitely somebody's being hurt. Somebody's losing. And yet we divide without a shvuah. Sure, there's no law. I feel tamer sumchas. Shvuah is u'medrabanan. The shvuah that we're making over here is only medrabanan. What's the why? In other words, this shvuah is not like a normal shvuah. It's a takana zachamim. What's the takana? Shvuah zu takana zachamim. You know what the purpose of shvuah is? Because it's very easy for a person to say to himself, there's a whole box there full of money. He has to be so greedy, take the whole box himself. Not his anyway. You don't want people walking around and taking someone else's talents with some mitzvah. People can delude themselves and think nothing wrong here. You have a smaller windfall. So the Shvuah Takon Chachamim. So even Sumchas will agree in this case. You swear Al Takon Chachamim as a deterrent from going ahead. Stop over here. We'll continue tomorrow, Hashem, and we'll learn 9:20. Mr. Shabbos.